experience with performance anxiety, if any?
Um, so I get energized by performances actually. Like I have severe social anxiety. So like a lot of like talking one on one like kind of scares me. But when I'm in front of like a crowd or an audience, like I guess my auxiliary side takes over and
Mm,
then suddenly like I'm just there to make them feel better. I'm there to make their day.
wow.
So like I don't really feel it at that point. So leading up to
Interesting.
a performance, I get crazy anxious because I'm like, oh no, this is going to be terrible. Like,
Yeah, all the
what if I
things.
don't hit that note? Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's what everybody does. But
Yep.
then as soon as I get on the stage, like that's all gone and I just
Mm.
kind of go on autopilot.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I don't think that's probably the most common
Yeah, I
response I'd say
know.
to a lot of people. But that is interesting. That you feel that way. Has it always been like that? You think that's just how you operate?
Yeah, that's just always kind of been who I am.
Hmm.
I don't know why. It's just me.
I felt I mean, of course you hear the thing that it gets better with time, I guess. I don't even know if that's a
Mhm.
narrative, but that's been my experience. I mean, it's just like how do you get better at some things by doing it a whole bunch, you know? And
Yeah.
it starts, I don't know if this is I've not really like sat down and thought about this like critically. Maybe I should, but it's just not been on the docket. But it's like almost in my perspective of it is like it starts just to become less of a big deal as opposed to where it's like maybe in my experience like I've had so many experiences performing at such like a high stakes whether it be competition or just like really important performances in general, not to say that every performance isn't important, but really high
Mhm.
stakes one like a degree recital where it's like this is like you're being evaluated like to get a degree. We put a lot of social and just in the curriculum pressure on that moment, and so that's what I mean by like a more important performance, I guess.
Right.
Or a competition, which I've done a lot of, like solo and chamber music, where it's like you're being literally evaluated like in the moment, like you are being
Mhm.
adjudicated, and that is scary in general
Yeah.
just as humans. But I've done enough of that to where now when I go and play, I mean, recitals are still highly stressful because you're still like, you put so much pressure on that on yourself, or I do anyway. Um, but I don't even know what to like playing. I don't know. Again, I'm hesitant to say this because it's like I don't want to say that this is less. Like it's not less of a performance, but to to me, but I just put less stress on it on myself. Like what I was thinking is like playing for like outreach concerts or whatever, which I actually literally just did yesterday. Played like a Zoom
Mhm.
concert with my quartet for a monastery in town, and so it was like a wide array of kids, uh, um, age wise. Like we had really little kids to like sixth graders. And so, but did I feel any stress performing in that at all? Literally 0%. Like I was not stressed playing that, as opposed to if I was a freshman and hadn't performed much at all, playing live at for anything was, stressful. As opposed, especially in comparison to now, that level of stress was much higher than now because I've just done it enough. So now it's like, oh, that's old news. Like that's just I could whip that out any time and just do that.
Mhm.
So in my experience, it's just been experience that has ultimately led to less performance anxiety. Which and I'm also kind of like you. I've not been as much to where it's like I feel like as soon as I get on stage, I'm like locked in the zone. That's not me necessarily, but I've never had debilitating performance anxiety where it's like I cannot perform right now because I'm so anxious. Like no,
Mhm.
I think mine are pretty, I guess, average. I don't know really what the average is, but average in what I sense of like it just seems like, butterflies, you're pretty nervous, you're probably going to screw up something that you've never screwed up before, like which we all can resonate with, I think, where it's just like
Yeah.
you got nervous and you screwed it up, but you've never messed that up ever once, which always sucks. But
Yep.
um so that's been my experience with that. I don't know where like performance anxiety, but do you have, because it does seem like would you say that you've studied or like are well read, and I feel like I've seen stuff on your blog about, like mental health and performance anxiety and stuff. Am I off base on that?
Mental health, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is maybe somewhat related. Do you have any advice for someone that has pretty intense performance anxiety?
I guess because I don't really experience it,
It's hard.
might
It's
not be
hard to
the
talk about.
best,
Yeah. I don't
but
know.
I
What
would
What do you
say
think though?
just, yeah, like realize that it's like you were saying earlier, like a performance is only a single moment in time,
Snapshot. Yeah.
and like you can't go back and change it. And then especially right before a performance, there's nothing you can do to make it any better than it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like, oh, maybe if I just practice more. It's like, no, you were where you were at that moment. You
Yeah.
are where you are at this moment. So just do it, and what happens happens.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there is something to say on the flip side of that. You're totally right. But I think also the performances that I felt the least anxious for were the ones I was the most prepared for,
mm,
And so it's like, because you start, that little voice in the head is like, you didn't practice this part of it enough and you know it. And it's like, and you know it. And that's whenever, because on the flip side, the performances I felt the most anxious for were the ones I was least prepared for in whatever, like an ensemble or quartet or whatever solo. So I think there is, you got to be prepared. That's like a
yeah, but
minimum requirement, and then talking from there, assuming you are as most prepared as you can. And then if you still are having debilitating performance anxiety, like that has to be, you know, the minimum requirement of the situation before you start talking about, skills and that. I actually took a performance anxiety class in my, when I was very young, like maybe my second semester of school. I did not get a lot from it actually at all. It was good, I guess, to talk about and kind of think. And I think it was good for me to realize where I was, but that class was designed for people. It was really early. I think it was only the second time they ever had that. So the class, so I don't think they were aware of even what the audience was, but the class that I took was way for people who were like could not perform if they wanted to, and that was not me. And so I didn't really get a lot of it, but it was a lot of like yoga and meditation and self-reflection and stuff, which has value, but it didn't do much for me, to be honest,
right.
Yeah. So, but it does seem like those tools